Northvolt was supposed to be the savior of Europe and of the climate by establishing battery manufacturing in Sweden and revolutionizing green battery technology. Between 2017 and 2024, Northvolt attracted 20 billion euros of public investments from the European Central Bank and governments. However, by March 2025, the company had to file for bankruptcy after not delivering on any of its promises. Glen Hodgson, you're the founder and CEO of the think tank Trade Europa. Welcome to Rex Europe.
Thank you very much for having me, Elias.
Now, the collapse of the green battery manufacturer Northvolt has made at least some headlines internationally, but the extent of this disaster is probably limited to the media here in Sweden. Could you explain what it is that has happened here?
Well, what we've seen is basically an overreach from the hubris and the pride over reality in terms of green policy. And this goes to the sort of the Green Deal and the sort of the battery strategy more generally, where we've put billions of euros into a startup with not the right location, not the right management, not the right expertise to be able to deliver on this. So we've put in lots of public and private money as well into this. A lot of lofty ambitions in terms of factories and capacity, which just weren't met. And what's happened now is that the whole structure has collapsed, and we're seeing the lack of ability, the lack of strategy, but sadly also we've seen injury and death in terms of people at the site on the way as well.
Now, there's a lot of the strategy behind the Northvolt factory in the city of Skellefteå was actually to bring Europe in competition with China with regards to manufacturing batteries. Is that a good strategy? Was that something that Europe should be doing, or was this a bad project from the get-go?
Well, I think there's two things here. I think first of all, if you're going to get into something and compete, you should probably start by focusing on where there's an existing base, there's existing knowledge and expertise and talent. Starting something from the beginning, from scratch like this, is a very time-consuming, very expensive, and very difficult process, given the leaps and bounds that are being made. Sometimes it seems that some of these European policies remind us of the old Soviet 5-year plans, where it's not linked on reality, it's just linked on dreams and hopes. And I think this is a wrong approach. I think it speaks more broadly about the whole idea of picking winners and industrial strategy. Europe's been very fond of trying to build things up and make things happen outside of the market, and I think this just is a cold shower in terms of the reality that what should be doing is focusing on where the actual ability is, where the manufacturing or talent base is, and build out from there, as opposed to just trying to pick winners, get involved, waste lots of money, time and resources, and at the end of the day you end up with a handful of dust, almost nothing, apart from of course the leadership who've got very fat wallets out of this and have made money. But unfortunately, in terms of European business and competition against China, we're actually further behind than we were from the beginning.
And there were a lot of experts who actually pointed out the warning signs regarding Northvolt. They were quite early out with this, but they were often rejected by the media. They were denied, ignored. Why was the European and the Swedish establishment in particular so swayed by Northvolt? How could this happen? Why were they led on this ride?
Because I think they really wanted to. It's like a lot of these things as well that people wanted to believe. They wanted to believe that the myth could be true because they really believed in sort of the sustainability, the whole green agenda, and saw this as a stepping stone to reindustrialization, but also real leadership. But I think a lot of it is not fraud. It's just incompetence and having the wrong ambitions at the wrong time. A lot of people have got egg on their face in terms of where we are now. They're trying to backtrack away from this, but and a lot of people were sounding the alarm, as you say, Elias, very, very early, that this just didn't add up in terms of the expansion, the financials, and also the capacity and the knowledge and expertise that existed to be able to make this a success.
So what could the consequences be for Europe as a whole, and in particular for Sweden, with regards to this collapse?
Well, there's the immediate direct and indirect job losses in Sweden, not just in Skellefteå, but also around the rest of the country. And also we're seeing as well, I think that this is a blow to the environmental sustainability goals and making industry and bringing industry forward. And, Europe's not learning its lessons. We're seeing at the moment these counterproductive sanctions, which are hurting Sweden, hurting industry in terms of aluminium at the moment. So we're basically repeating the same mistakes time and time again, which is a sad reality at this time.
So will this affect the EU and other globalist forces that have the green agenda? Will this affect their decision making in the future, or do you think that they will keep throwing money and investing public resources into these types of projects?
I think there's never a right way to do a wrong thing, and my head says people should learn from this. But unfortunately, history clearly shows that people don't learn. They like to think that this time was a one-off occasion, Elias. Next time we'll do it better and it'll work out. But sadly, I think that the kind of the dirigiste, statist approach that has been taken from Brussels at the moment will see more of these kind of large-scale projects, which may end in a similar result, sadly.
So if we come back to the purpose of Northvolt from the very beginning, to compete with China, is Europe at face value able to compete with the Chinese battery industry? What do you think?
I think we're really struggling, and we just hear sort of today that Cattle have been sort of coming out with these new fast charging, which is going to be as quick as filling up a internal combustion engine vehicle with gasoline. Great strides that are being made all the time on the Chinese market, and I think that they were also getting, in terms of technology and their automotive industry, in terms of the EV shift, they're certainly in the driving seats when it comes to their position at the moment. And also I think we should see in the European consumer market, people are actually turning away from the sort of full EV model. We've seen Volvo having to backtrack. We've seen Audi as well. The rollout and the phase out of the internal combustion engine, I think, is further down the line than people once predicted. We see the demand falling, particularly because of the high prices, but also retail values, which are so low. And consumers are really scared about the being able to get any money back on electric vehicles. And of course, so there's still the range anxiety with models on the market today. So I think China is certainly leading the way on this, and it leaves the European industry and the European battery sector in a very, very tricky place.
As you were saying, the combustion engine is sort of making a little bit of a political comeback in some circles. Do you think that the Northvolt collapse will accelerate that development, or do you think that this has not really affected the market for the electrification agenda that the EU has?
I think the electrification agenda is still there, but this has certainly slowed things down. I think it's also made people reticent in certain areas, certainly from the private sector, about who to back and what to believe in terms of moving these things forward. There's been a very strong dose of reality has been brought into the mix now, and I think that we're going to see sort of more of this as we go forward.
Thank you, Glen Hodgson, founder and CEO of the Free Trade Europa think tank.
Thank you, Elias. Pleasure to be on.
And thank you for watching RIX Europe.